Hello there. Welcome to the 30th episode of the SPS podcast. It's the 30th episode, so I thought I'd do something a bit special and have another deep dive performance origins conversation. And this one is with Save Your Sons, also known as Harrison. So let's just jump right into it. Let the credits roll. Welcome to the SPS podcast, the Self-Performance Strategies podcast. Unlocking the secrets to success and the secrets to performance so you can improve yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. The SPS podcast is brought to you by the Pro Accelerator program, specifically designed to help business owners and business leaders save at least 10 hours a week while improving their freedoms of time, money, and purpose. If you're interested in finding out more about the Pro Accelerator program, check the show notes or head on over to stephentimoney.com. Let's get into the episode. Welcome. Hello to the 30th episode of the SPS podcast of the Self-Performance Strategies podcast. This episode is another performance origins where we take a deep dive with a successful entrepreneur and we talk about their success journey and their self-performance journey. In this episode, I am over the moon to be joined by Save Your Sons, aka Harrison, who is a business coach who leans towards helping fathers monetize a following and escape the 9-to-5 so they can be more independent to help their families have a better life. I'm super excited to have Harrison on the pod because he's one of my oldest Twitter connections. I remember connecting with him when I had about 1,000 followers, and I think he had 500, and now he's got hundreds of thousands of followers. So he's really blowing up. But hello and welcome, Harrison. How are you on this fine day? And thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Stephen, man, ST, you're right. It goes way back. I think like literally one of the first people I met online, and we still talk to this day. And that just goes to show you how important it is. Anybody who's listening to this, if you want to build anything meaningful online, you need those relationships. I'll probably say that a million times, but that is one of the most important things. And I'm grateful for you, man. We really came up at the exact same time and went through all the stuff, all the growing pains together. And it's so fun to revisit that now, two and a half years later.
Yeah. It was two and a bit years later. It was summer of 2020 when the pandemic had kicked in and we were all locked in our houses, and it was
everybody was a little crazy.
Yeah.
Twitter account.
Yeah, let's do it. That's pretty much spent pretty much every waking hour on Twitter talking to people, primarily around North America, but pretty much all over the world. But it was a fun time, and it's been. I have to be honest, man. It's been very impressive to see your growth. The Save Your Sons brand it's incredible. Like you're blowing up on Instagram, blowing up on Twitter, just awesome stuff. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. It's still a huge surprise, and I still don't really, you try to reverse engineer what happened, and you get a pretty good idea of it, but it's also a lot of right place, right time, right combination of branding elements, and things happen. So I'm grateful for the ride and always just kind of taking it as it comes.
Yeah, no, it's great. I feel the same about my growth. I sometimes I look back and be like, how did I end up with like 60,000 followers on Twitter? Right. How did that happen? But I'm glad it did because it changed my life. And we'll talk about that as we get into the podcast, because I think you are now a full-time business entrepreneur, helping. And we'll get into what exactly you do, and we'll talk about it in a bit later. But to start off, a question I actually ask all my guests that come on. What is your sort of personal success philosophy, or what is your self-performance philosophy? How do you show up as a person daily around that idea?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that are really important to me that I try to like check a box every day. And the first thing that's really, really important to me is just more of like a personal ethos that I developed in my early 20s, which actually informs a lot of my content. I talk to young men and going through the period of transitioning from adolescent to an adult.
Yeah.
And this idea of, really it's simple. It's self-improvement.
Yeah.
So doing something, no matter what, every single day that makes myself better.
Yes.
And what that is can be different. It might be exercising. It might be creating something. It might be trying a new ad. It might be spending more time with my family. But just zero days.
Zero days.
There's never going to be a day that's a zero. And that's something that I think has played a large part in getting me to where I've been able to get now. I mean, there's a lot of things that weren't me. But one thing that I think I have done that's really important is sticking to that idea of no matter what, you got to do something every single day that makes yourself better.
Yeah, I really like that. That 0 days that's really key.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for me, and like you're never standing in the same spot. You know, if you have a 0 day, like you effectively went backward because everybody else kept going.
Yeah.
and inflation marched on, everything grew and went ahead of you, and you stayed the same. So effectively, by comparison, you're farther behind.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. No matter what, you got to do something.
Yeah. So in my life, to reflect on that, I have like minimum standards, like my floor, like things that I do every day that you might just call habits, but they're like minimum standards that I can look at and be like, if I do nothing else, as long as I've done my minimum standards, I've had a good day. And that's like, journaling, maybe a bit of meditating, going for a walk with the dog, whatever that is. So what would it be if you're talking about no 0 days, and for maybe listeners to really encapsulate what that is, what would be just the bar above a 0 day? If you're having a tough day and you just needed to get something done to make yourself feel better, what constitutes a non-0 day for you?
So, I mean, right now we have two little boys, and they are wild. Like they take up so much energy and so much time and so much lost sleep. So I think I'm at like I'm at a greater risk of 0 days than I've probably ever been in my life. But like for me, the bare minimum, like I have a business that I have to grow. It has to grow. It has to grow. And there's a few key things I know I can do every single day that either will grow it or set me up to grow in the near term.
Yeah.
And that's interacting with current clients, that's creating content, that's sending an email. I guess that's technically creating content, writing ads, whatever. It's doing something every day that is going to help my business grow. And what another kind of success philosophy, I like the way you frame that, ST, is, do people call you ST on the podcast?
They can if they want. You're the first one, but let's do it. I like it.
Only OG, only the real ones know.
Only the real ones, only the OGs. Because ST doesn't stand for Stephen Timoney.
Yeah, right. Yeah, only the deep fans know.
Yeah, know what ST stands for. Yeah,
but so to do that, you have to get really disciplined about saying no. And so one of the big, like, a hallmark of a good day to me is actually, did I say no to something?
Yeah.
Did I turn something down? Did I decide to quit doing something?
Yes.
And giving yourself permission to cut out crap that doesn't matter.
Yes.
And that's a lesson I took from my career into my business, and one of the most important things I ever learned. And it's I don't know if it's probably Steve Jobs or somebody was like, the most important job of a CEO is not deciding what to do next, it's deciding what to stop doing.
Yes.
And if you can cut out the crap, then you have all the time to do the things that matter.
Yeah. In my life, I call that stuff dumb shit.
Yeah.
It's the dumb shit. And I have a dumb shit list, and I get most of my clients to write out a dumb shit list. And that dumb shit list is basically all the stuff that I know I shouldn't do. Like on that dumb shit list, I have overeating at lunch, because I know if I overeat at lunch, it's going to put me in a downward spiral for the afternoon where I'm not going to want to do, more productive or life positive things. I'm probably going to be more likely to be distracted because I'm tired. So it's anything that I think is going to take me away from my higher levels of performance, I put down as dumb shit. It's actually one of the reasons why I stopped posting on TikTok recently, because I just when I was sitting one morning very calmly, feeling very centered, I wrote out a dumb shit list, and the first thing that top was TikTok was dumb shit, and I was like, okay, I'm off. I'm done. If my mind's telling me that, I'm removing that as an option. But yeah, I really think you're key when you talk about that Steve Jobs quote and about removing stuff. I honestly believe that's the get your opinion on this, but I think that's the secret to self-improvement. I think a lot of the personal development and productivity world is kind of leaned towards doing new things, like starting a new habit, trying a new system, downloading an app. Where in my life, and you can maybe answer this, is I've always found my biggest gains have come from when I've removed things, not when I've added things.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, the time is the most valuable thing in the entire universe. Mm-hmm. Until we understand the quantum mechanics of space-time or whatever, and we can like reverse it or pause it, like we can't do that. And so it is marching on, and it is going, and you only have so much of it. And the most I took this cue from successful people that I know, that I've read books or that I know in my life, and they all value time over everything else. Mm-hmm. Like they would pay any amount of money to save time. There's two kinds of people. Yeah. I think I tweeted this one time, and it made a lot of people mad. But I was like, there's the people that'll wait in Costco gas line for 30 minutes to save $2. And then there's the people that get on with their day and spend an extra couple bucks so they don't have to wait in the line. Yeah. And I try to put that into every single thing that I do. This is costing me time no matter what. Yeah. No matter, everything I'm doing costs me time. So can I justify that? And you have to be really honest with yourself and really disciplined and say, like, I can't justify the time that I'm spending on this thing. And that's when that's when it goes on your dumb shit list. It's like, this is at the top of the list. And I cut out. I did one. I did. People told me I was crazy when I told them this. What do you think, Stephen? I hate emails so much. I hate it. Like, and it comes from my 9 to 5, like, because I would spend all day like trying to get my inbox down and like parsing through 50 email threads and like trying to find the relevant information and like doing inline edits on an email and like bolding things and be like, per your last email, see my response to read. And I freaking hated that. Yeah. And every time I open up my inbox, I would just get this sinking feeling in my stomach. And I still get it today, even with my Save Your Son's email. So this is what I did. I put on a permanent out of office message on my main email. Yeah. That says this email address is not monitored. If you want to get in touch with me, send me a DM on Twitter. And that's all it says. And everyone's like, dude, you're missing out on so much, like so many potential sales, like whatever. And like, maybe I'm still sending sales emails. Like, come on, I'll still fire up a ConvertKit sequence and send that out. Yes. But I'm not gonna spend time in my inbox answering emails ever again. And just decided that. And that was one of the examples of like, you got to cut out the things that aren't, at least where I was at right now. Like it was not driving my business to answer emails. It was not moving the needle in any significant way. And it got the axe.
I love it. That's just you assessing what's working and what's not working. If you were getting a lot of business from answering emails, you would answer emails. But if it's just conversations going backwards and forwards and it's time wasting your time, it's not useful. That's something you could hire a VA for in the future to do a filter for you. Because I know plenty of other high-end entrepreneurs that have massive businesses that don't even touch email, that has to go through somebody else before it gets to them. I'm not at that point yet. I don't think I'm Jeff Bezos, but
I think it's the next big flex. Yeah, is being like, no, I don't do email. I don't do email. When like 20 years ago, that was like the ultimate boomer thing to say. Like, you don't do email. Like, what's wrong with you? But now it's like gone full circle, and it's like a total flex.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good flex as well, because it's just a time suck. And no, I like it. I like that methodology. I like that thinking. You want to remove the dumb shit so you can focus on the most important things. So, continuing down that line a little bit, over the last sort of 5 or 10 years, I mean, you've got a young family. You've been working, successfully in the normal sort of corporate phase, and now you've moved over a business owner. Over the last number of years, what would be the biggest struggle that stands out to you? That was, I don't want to say the one thing that you had to overcome to get success, but what was the one thing, or what were the things that you had to really focus on to help you, succeed not only in the corporate world before becoming a coach and a business owner, but even now as a coach and a business owner? What do you think of the main struggles are that you're still competing against?
Well, I don't know. I'll start out by saying, like, I think this is what most people would say, like, I still don't really feel like I have succeeded, and I don't know that I ever will. Like I'm really comfortable, and we're doing great,
Yeah.
and like I don't know how much you talk about money, but like I never in a million years dreamed that I would be earning what I'm earning and changing and impacting people's lives in the way that I am. Never thought that would happen. So like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like to an outsider, like sure, like it might look that way, but to me, I'm like, I'm in it, and I'm like, there's crap, there's fires, there's problems, there's issues,
Yeah.
and I always think about it like to the extent that I had like that I am like succeeding or like on the right path or doing the right things in life. I think it all comes down to what I choose, how I choose to spend my time.
Yeah.
And like for a while, I had to stop doing this, but for a while after I left my 9 to 5 to do this full time, I was going to the gym every morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just non-negotiable. I was like, I'm going to spend these 2 hours at the gym because that's the reason I'm able to do everything else. That's the reason I'm able to run the business and do and grow the business and get results for people is because I've filled my own cup up so much.
Yeah.
And like if I stop doing that, if I stop going to the gym completely, like I may have more quote time in the day, but it's going to fail because doing those things is the reason that I've been able to do what I've done so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to move it. I go to the gym now at 5 a.m., which isn't great, but it was just the nature of my business and my family schedule. Like,
yeah,
the clients need the most attention in the mornings, and I was at the gym during that time, so I had to switch it. But like going to the gym as a small example, it's like think about the habits, the patterns that you've established, the common denominators in your life,
yeah,
that have been consistent, and try to think about which ones of those have been most directly related to your success. And remember that's just what you do. That's what you do now. You're a guy like you're a guy that meditates. You're a guy that journals. You're a guy that goes to the gym, because those are the things that allow you to do what you need to do for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start saying, I got to cut things, but you do have to cut things. But if you cut those things, they're upstream, and everything that's downstream of that is going to suffer.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I call that a keystone habit, the one habit that rules them all. And that for me, it's meditating and journaling in the morning. I tried the working out in the morning, but I kind of felt like I'd achieved something in my day, and I felt like it actually dipped my motivation. So I know I work out, go for walks and work out in the afternoon. I'll go for a walk after this podcast for about an hour, maybe do some kettlebells later on. But going back to that idea about that keystone goal, for years, even when I was back at corporate, before I went on my journey, if I didn't meditate and journal, and when I was in corporate, I would read and do a little bit more sort of maybe productivity stuff in the morning before starting work. If I didn't do that up front, I kind of felt like the rest of my day belonged to somebody else, and I hadn't actually served myself first. I hadn't put myself front and center, and then I kind of didn't feel as optimal, when I was at my corporate job, because sometimes at my corporate job I'd feel like I was in the shit zone. I'd be at my corporate job and I'd be thinking about, I still need to journal, I need to go and find some space to meditate. It would be in my brain. So I really like that as something that, because you put that working out as your main keystone habit. I mean, that's the domino that if I get that done each day, that's going to allow me to do everything else.
Yeah, that's it. And you said it, man. Like, I think this is a big problem in our society, and I see it with everyone. I work mostly with men, and I have a men's community that's like mostly more self-development, and most of my clients tend to be men, their dads, whatever. Seaver Sons University.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah. And a common problem that I see them all have is that they can't put themselves first, and they can't fill their own cup, whatever you want to call it, energize themselves. And if you don't do that, if you don't put yourself as the top priority, then everyone else in your family or in your life that depends on you, that needs you, is going to suffer from that.
Yes.
And that's like, it's a common pattern in dads. It's a common pattern in really, I think everybody, because we have such messaging in our society, like, don't be selfish. It's bad to be selfish. Well, okay. It's bad to be like, an a-hole
Yeah.
and like a dickhead. Can I say that? It's
Yes.
but it's not bad to be selfish.
Yeah.
It's not bad to take care of yourself, because that's what makes you able to do everything else that you need to do.
Yes.
And when you're running a business, when you're leading a family, even when you're at a job, there's people that depend on you.
Yeah.
And you're doing the worst thing possible if you aren't facing every day with as high of energy is everything. If you don't have high energy, it's all over. So you have to find the things that get you high energy and do those every single day so that you can have that energy to give to the people that need you.
Yeah, I'm a massive believer in energy management comes before time management.
Yeah, it's upstream of that for sure.
100%. And I deal with that well. I've got working one-on-one with entrepreneurs and business leaders, and that's something that and some people who are still at a 9-to-5 but they've got a side hustle going on and they're trying to leave that 9-to-5 or build their side project at the same time. They want to have a good income, and I will often find that there'll be a slight resentment to their 9-to-5 or to other things in their lives, and then when I peel back the layers, it's because they end up doing everything for everybody else first in their day, and then when it comes around to having free time in the evening, they're too tired to actually focus on the things that they want to focus on. So they end up getting a bit pissed off with their life and a bit frustrated. And a simple switch of maybe getting up half an hour earlier, getting up an hour earlier, and actually putting yourself first before everybody else in your house gets up can have dramatic results when you start compounding that over weeks and months and years. It's unbelievable when you just a little bit of time to yourself, first of all.
And in the same way, if they don't do that, it compounds negatively, because they're pissed off when they go to bed, and then they wake up and they have the hangover mood, and they let that impact their relationships, and then they have another bad day and another 0 day and another 0, and then it just goes downhill.
Yes.
Versus the opposite flywheel effect of putting yourself first, filling yourself up so that you have something to give. Yeah,
you end up creating your darkest timeline when you don't put yourself
That's
first.
Right. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Terrible. So we've talked a little bit about, when we think about your performance journey, it was really about putting yourself first and dropping the dumb shit, so to speak, making sure that you're focusing on those key efforts. Where you're at now, you're already pretty successful. You're coaching people. You've got a fantastic amount of following on Twitter and Instagram, as we've discussed. But in the next sort of 12 to 18 months, if I was to give you a realistic but magic wand, where are you taking this Save Your Sons brand? What's the next level for you personally, mentally, emotionally? What's happening with your performance in that area?
Oh man. Well, okay, I'm not one of those guys who believes in don't tell other people your goals.
Okay.
I tell people my goals. Who cares? Because people say you can't trust everybody. Like someone's gonna no one's gonna get in the way of what I want to do other than my own head.
Yes.
And me being an idiot. There's no there's no cabal out there who's gonna try to stop me. So I love talking about my goals, and if they change, if I don't achieve them, whatever. I'm not worried about I don't ascribe to that philosophy at all. So 12 months, 12 months, honestly, I'll probably be doing the same thing. I just want to try to grow it, and pretty soon I think 12 months, maybe 2 years, I kind of will be at a ceiling with what I can do in terms of client management. The offer, I have a few offers, but what I sell, I can probably double, triple what I'm doing now, maybe, but it's going to hit a ceiling. And for me, what Save Your Sons has always been about is how can I help men to be better dads so that we can have better outcomes for kids?
Yeah.
Because if the data's clear, if a kid doesn't have a dad in their life, every bad thing that can happen to a person in our society is more likely to happen to a kid that grows up without that influence.
Yes.
So I found as long as everything I do is aligned to that sort of North Star mission, then I'm energized. I'm not at risk of burning out. I know that I'm doing what I'm put on this earth to do, which is help men build better families.
Yeah.
And so long term, this is cool. I one of the most important things, one of the most impactful things, really the most impactful thing on family life, really life in general in our society is the media.
Yeah.
And we everybody kind of knows if you control the media, you you have power.
Mm-hmm.
You can control the reality for whoever consumes that media. And for better or worse, I mean, there's great media out there, there's terrible media out there. And so my long-term goal is to create positive media for families. And I've always had a creative streak. Like, people listening to this can't see the video, but I got like my guitars, my piano behind. Like, I love art. I love creating things. And what gets me really energized is the idea of creating this positive IP, intellectual property, for children, like a universe of characters and stories and multimedia experiences around positive messaging for children. Because I believe we can give kids positive messages at an early age, and that can be like, they're going to consume media. We can't avoid that. We can't lock them in a media free chamber for the rest of their lives. but we have to give them good stuff that we approve of, that we think is good and helps them versus hurts them, harms them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I can see myself making a really big impact once I get comfortable enough with the business model I have now, and I feel like that's I'm safe with that, and I've got, like, enough saved up to where I'm never have to worry. That's the direction I want to go in, is how can I create this media property for kids, books, music, movies, TV shows, YouTube, whatever, all the above, that is really valuable. I mean, look at Disney, look at Peppa Pig. Do you know Peppa Pig?
Yeah, I know Pig.
Yeah, Peppa Pig. The guys who made Peppa Pig sold it for $3.8 billion.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
So yeah, like something like that's where, like, my kind of dream is down the road.
I love that. That's a hell of a moonshot.
Right.
Yeah, that's inspiring. Yeah, I mean, I haven't got anything anywhere near as articulate as that. I just have this idea in the back of my mind of, like, wanting to help millions of people, prevent them from, like, doing the dumb shit that stops them from fulfilling their potential. I just have this because I did a lot of dumb shit as a young man, and I didn't have that media coming to me, to help me. I had to go and work all this shit out myself, get into stoicism stuff in my mid to late 20s and early 30s to actually go and sort all this shit out, because schools certainly didn't want to teach me information about how to be a decent person. They wanted to tell me how to sort out some equation with a triangle. Thanks. So I really like that. That's super inspiring, because that's a worthy goal, because I think that, what is it, because you have a young family that you're inspired to do that, or is it just the fact that you've always wanted to you've always had a thing for media, storytelling, or what's the kind of the why behind that massive goal?
I think it's a combination. Yeah, like, I definitely have always I've loved movies always, like, since I was a little kid. Like, some of the best memories of my childhood are going to the movies with my dad or with friends or my grandparents, my mom, whoever. Like, going to the movies was the best. But it was only as an adult that I realized that I started tying back a lot of my negative thoughts. Because, like, I hinted at this at the beginning, I think most young men go through this. Like, your early 20s are tough.
Yeah.
They're tough, because you're into the real world, and all the fairy tale crap that you heard your whole life, you're realizing a lot of that was a lie to make you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's not how the real world operates at all. And I was able to tie back a lot of my negative patterns, a lot of my negative thoughts, a lot of my negative self-image to the media that was really kind of forced on me as a child. Really, like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, nobody held a gun in my head and made me watch MTV Spring Break at 11 years old, but that's probably not the thing an 11-year-old should be watching. Like, no. Newsflash. And there was all this stuff that I realized, like, man, like, I've been programmed by this crap, and it's making me into not the type of person I want to be. It's holding me back from my potential. To get back to your missions, even, like, imagine if we harness the potential of 8 billion people.
Yeah.
If 8 billion people are using 60% of their potential or 40% of their potential, if we could harness that, imagine how the world would change.
Yeah.
Even if we harnessed a tiny fraction of it. And that's what, like, to me, I could really tie back. I was like, you know what? All this crap rattling around in my head, all this negative worldview, this negativity, this bad energy, this bad self-image, an uncomfortable amount of that is tied directly back to the inputs I had as a child.
Yes.
And having my kids really made that hit home. I was like, I don't want them to have that. I don't want them to grow up, ashamed of who they are, or ashamed of themselves, or with wrong ideas about the world. You teach them the ideas about the world in a safe way, but you want them to have an idea of what to expect.
Yeah.
And I got none of that, and it's nobody's fault except whoever was creating MTV Spring Break or whatever, all the other crap I was watching. But so that's kind of, to me, is like, there has to be an alternative to that stuff. And the biggest leap forward that I think I'm in a position to make is by helping to create that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good why, because you had the insight to actually go back and be, well, why am I acting like this? Why am I showing up in the world a little bit like this? And that's huge, because I definitely had similar thoughts, looking back at things. I call them Hollywood moments, where a lot of people online or in life, they will say things online or to people's faces that are very cutting, very sort of like, oh wow, be like like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, let off some steam, kind of thing. But like, the movie keeps going. That person's not dead. You say that harsh comment to them in life, and then you've got to face that person again. So it's not the movie doesn't end. You've got to deal with the consequences of your actions. And I always feel like the TV shows, like if you go back and watch Friends, or even Seinfeld to a certain extent as well, they're awful people, right, saying awful things to each other all the time. Now, Seinfeld's hilarious, and you can kind of watch it, but even Friends to a certain extent, like, they were not friends. Right. And it's, I don't know, for me, it kind of felt like that there was you were being taught to say things to people that, in reality, you shouldn't really be saying to people around you, because as I'm saying, the life, you have to see those people again. There isn't a Hollywood moment. The curtain doesn't come down. There's consequences to the things and the actions that you do.
Yeah, that's the key. It's like the media, the movies, the TV shows, they never show the consequences.
Yeah,
just do it, and then they're fine. But like, there's second, third, fourth order things that happen with every single thing you do. And they're usually pretty predictable. And if you think about it for 2 seconds, you can figure out the right thing to do.
Yeah, because I think that when I was younger, definitely in my early 20s, the thing between my nose and my chin, my mouth, got me into a lot of problems. And I would say quite cutting things. I was quite sharp-witted, a little bit sarcastic. I think that's maybe the Irish UK humor in there. But I thought I was kind of being cool and humorous, but in reality, looking back, I was just being cringe. And it kind of took me a while to sort of unravel that. Well, where in my nature has this come from, where I was saying these sharp, witty, cutting things? And I actually do put it down to movies and TV shows, that I thought that was what you did. That's how you interacted with people. You said cutting things because that's what the cool guy in the movie chewing the matchstick, in the bar says, in the bar fight, watching Roadhouse or something with Patrick Swayze. You say the smart comment and you knock the guy out, but no, that's not really how life works. It's there's consequences to things, and So I definitely was influenced by a lot of shit like that growing up. All those sort of like hero movies, you could nearly call them.
It's funny that you zeroed in on sarcasm. I hadn't thought about that in the context of media, but you're 100% right. Like, that is like, I was really sarcastic the same way, as an early 20s guy, and it definitely, that's where it came from, 100%. Like, that has to be it. And I always caution people, sarcasm is really, really dangerous if you're not careful, because sarcasm is one step removed from cynicism, and cynicism is one step removed from nihilism. Like, you are walking a dangerous tightrope if you go around with a sarcastic attitude. I mean, it leads to pessimism, it leads to cynicism, it leads to nihilism, and all these things lead to nowhere. You do not. I mean, maybe you can be a stand-up comedian or something, but other than that, like, it is not the way to navigate the world. It is the optimists win 99 times out of 100, and so I like to play the odds. And that's 100% right, man. And I hadn't put it together that's where that particular bad trait came from, but it absolutely is.
Yeah, no, I definitely did some reflection on that because I was, as I said, very sarcastic. I was like, as I just mentioned, where did I get that from? And I can only really pin it to that because I don't think anybody in my family was overly sarcastic. My dad's quite witty, but we're Irish, so there's a sort of a UK Irish sort of banter where you kind of take the piss out of people. Like you people who, but it's not being sarcastic. You're being sharp with people's someone does something wrong and you sort of like you flip something really quickly onto them and you make a joke out of it. We're also really good at cracking jokes at really dark situations in life when shit happens and some bad news comes in. In an Irish family, you can like literally count before 10 seconds go by and someone's going to crack a joke. Right. It's just the way it is because it's you don't deal well with uncomfortable silences. The jokes come out, but the sarcasm that I had, like I was like, where is that? And it's almost hateful. There almost is like a wickedness to it, where you're being sarcastic, and it's usually because you're glossing over some type of inner pain or limiting belief. But also on top of that, you've been taught by media that being quick-witted and sarcastic is kind of like it's almost like a archetype or something. It's a type of person who you can be. I'm the sarcastic one in the group, and I think I fell into that trope or archetype, whatever you want to call it, in my early 20s because that was definitely I saw myself as the humorous friend. But to be fair, it didn't really work out that well for me in my early 20s.
Yeah, it's a way to like remove agency from yourself in a way. Like it's like, oh, I don't take anything seriously, so if I fail, it's because I wasn't taking it seriously, not because I'm a loser.
Yeah.
And that's like where the root of sarcasm I think comes from is like, oh well, it's not I'm not serious. I'm just being sarcastic. Like I don't take anything seriously. And like newsflash to people who are thinking that way, if you want to do anything meaningful, you have to take things seriously.
Yes.
You're never going to get anywhere that you want to be if you refuse to take things seriously. And you have to be vulnerable. Because it's scary to take something seriously for the first time when you've had this defense mechanism of like, well, as long as I don't try, I can't fail.
Yeah.
Well, at some point you actually got to try and you got to take things seriously, and that can be where a lot of pain can come from that, but also every good thing in your life is going to come from that too.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. That I would definitely say that's part of my sarcasm, or when I was in my early 20s, it was like, well, if I don't try, I can't fail. When you said that was definitely a mental sort of direction that I came from, and then I would joke about it. Anybody else trying, I'd be like, oh, look at this person, try hard.
Yeah,
try
it's the same
hard.
crap, man.
And looking back now, it's kind of cringe, but I think I definitely, the back end of my 20s, because I partied a lot in my early 20s, you probably know my backstory. I ended up going to a lot of nightclubs and being a bit of a drinker and a partier every weekend. And it wasn't until the back end of my 20s that I started to see that compounding effect. Like for a couple of years, you don't really see it, but I started seeing friends getting married, buying houses, getting bigger jobs, and all of a sudden my life looked the same for like 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and I was like, something's not right here. And I would say that's my biggest failure in my life, was not catching on to that quick enough. And I'm not beating my younger self up. He was doing the best that he could at that time. I'm not going to, imagine being in your 40s and hating on a younger version of yourself. It's just, you don't want to do that. You need to get over that and let go of those issues. But my biggest failure, or the thing where I was sort of off path the most in my life, was that time in my 20s where taking 100% responsibility wasn't really something I did. And I'll flip that over to you. What was your biggest sort of failure or your biggest learning experience that you had to overcome to become the man you are today?
I think it's the same thing, man. Like we have very similar early 20s story. And dude, it was bad. It was bad. I was like a disaster. And I quit drinking forever 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years in December 8th.
Good work.
December 8th, 2012 was my last drink ever. It was a Coors Light.
Is that even a drink?
Yeah, in the U.S. we call it a drink. In Ireland, probably not. But yeah, I was by myself in my apartment. I was like, this is pathetic.
Yeah.
Like, this is the worst. It was an 18-pack that I had polished off all day by myself, and it was the last one. I was like, nope, like I can't do this anymore. And it's funny. We were bragging on media. There was an interview that I saw from a guy, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Who okay, yeah, he's like big media guy. but I actually credit this I still remember this to this day because it was like right around the same time for me.
Yeah.
And he quit drinking too.
Yeah.
So this is the power that like you can have if you just say a message publicly. You can impact people without you ever even knowing it. But he was telling the story about how he quit drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in his 20s and he had a little bit of a career going, but alcohol was holding him back.
Yeah.
And he said they asked him like what made you quit? And it wasn't like, I was getting arrested every night or I had 10 DUIs or whatever. Like I didn't have that stuff either. So that wouldn't have really resonated with me. But what he said really did resonate with me. And what he said was, I finally realized that alcohol was keeping me from reaching my full potential.
Mm.
And as soon as I understood that, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the exact same thing. I was like, this is holding me back. Yeah. I will never, ever, ever do what I need to do with my life, do what I was supposed to do with my life if I wake up in the morning feeling this way, if I treat my body this way. And it wasn't easy for me to quit because I had this really big habit for a long time.
Yeah.
But hearing that and then looking around at my life and some very fortuitous people in my life at the time who helped me, I was able to do it. And that's probably the biggest thing for me that sort of changed the trajectory. So anybody who's listening to this, who's struggling with that, been there. If it's keeping you from your potential, it's gotta go.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I don't drink as well. So it's just, for me, it's the whole idea of having a drink steals happiness from tomorrow. You're literally stealing happiness and time from your future. So you just have this sort of state change for a few hours, this sort of inflated, fake happiness or whatever. And even sometimes with alcohol, you don't even go happy. It's a suppressant, so you can actually end up spiraling and thinking about bad things. But I got really, really into biohacking and getting clean around about, you want to call it biohacking, but Dave Asprey kind of stuff, the Bulletproof Diet, around about 2014, 2015. And I was tracking my sleep. I had this like sleep app, Sleep Cycle, and I recorded like 500 nights of my sleep. And I just started to actually see when I removed alcohol and then I brought alcohol back in and would get drunk, maybe one with my parents or for dinner with friends. I would literally notice how it affected my sleep for 2 or 3 days. And I would now notice how it would be like, and I know this happens with getting older. I'm in my early 40s, but like I was in my early to mid 30s when I was doing all this like 10 years ago. And I actually started to realize that I didn't get that real clear mental capacity back until like a Wednesday or Thursday morning after drinking. And that really highlighted to me, why I needed to quit drinking on a regular basis. It just because it really did slow me down. It made me it leaned me towards wanting to. I don't even think Netflix was really around back in 2014, 15. Maybe it was. I can't remember. But it definitely leaned me towards wanting to do more easy dopamine. Like I wasn't as, my discipline was not there for a few days as much as it was. It was harder for me to get around to working than normal. All these extra things, and when you start doing the percentages, the sort of like the risk management, or different sort of like mental models around your energy and your time, you start thinking, well, alcohol's dumb shit. It's literally the thing. It's one of the things that is slowing you down. And I stand outside with my dog. I go up to shops with my wife, and she goes in. I stand outside of my dog, and I just see the amount of people coming and going from the local liquor store. And I even got to the point now where I look at that and I'm like, that seems strange to me now, seeing the amount of people going in and out of a liquor store on a daily basis. And I'm thinking, again, when you think about the potential of the human race, if everybody would just stop drinking for a few and deal with their shit, it'd be,
If everyone just stopped for a few years, like we'd probably we'd wind up on Mars. Probably. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't just steal from tomorrow. Like it steals from the next day and the next day and the next day, and you're spot on. And it doesn't just steal happiness. It steals productivity.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like I mean, I would get bad hangovers, and that next day would be spent, and really the day after would be spent, because either I would go and drink again the next day to like make the hangover feel better,
Yes,
or it would just take like 48 hours to get out of my system, 72 hours to get out of my system, and that's a few hours of partying has cost you 4 days.
Yeah.
And like, imagine what you could achieve with that time if you had a clear head and high energy.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, being an entrepreneur, and I look at some of my friends and family, colleagues, people who I know in my world that are part of that sort of. I'm not shitting on corporate people when I say this, but they're at the weekends they go out and have 2 or 3, 4 or 5 glasses of wine. They go out for expensive dinners and they spend their weekends going for brunches and having like a Bloody Mary or whatever they're called over here. They're called that Clamato juice drink up here that they have. They put vodka in it. It's
the clams.
It's not called a Bloody Mary. It's called something on a Sunday. Usually most places have them. The name will pop into my head at some point. But I couldn't do that on a weekend. Like my weekends are just like this sort of magical time where like there's less people. Like I get to spend time with my family. I get to sort of like wind back a little bit from my business, and going out and drinking 4 or 5 glasses of red wine on a Saturday night and then waking up on a Sunday morning with a sore head just does not sound appealing to me at all. But it's like almost like the dream that's been sold to us: get successful, get a nice house, and become a wine connoisseur, go to fancy restaurants. And when I say that out loud, I'm like, it sends a shiver down my spine. Like, being, spending your weekend, spending hundreds of dollars on expensive wine because it's a cool thing to do. I don't know what it seems, and I see a lot of people doing that. I don't know about you in your world, but I do see that seems to be like a when you're in your 40s and 50s, that's what you do at the weekend.
It's insane, man. Like the culture that's been built up around alcoholism is baffling. And like, look, like some people are wired different, and it doesn't bother them. It doesn't affect them, and that's fine. But I think, oh man, Mike Fred keeps tipping over. I think if it does, like a person knows if they're being honest, like if it's a problem, like they know. And they may not want to admit it. It's one of the hardest things to admit. That's why it's step 1 of AA. but like, if you're really honest, like, and so, okay, now what are you going to do about it? And like, some people can be really honest, say like, nah, this doesn't bother me at all. I'm fine, whatever. And okay, that's great. But if you're being honest and the answer is that it is a problem, that's where it's time to do the right thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You've got to call out the again, back to dumb shit. You got to call out the stuff that's slowing you down, remove it, and then see where you can take your life after that. You're never going to know unless you try.
Yeah,
and that's a big thing. So continuing on that vein a little bit, it's a good conversation around alcohol. I think both of us have realized, at some point in our journey that alcohol was one of those major things that was slowing me down. I mean, I don't think I'd have a business right now.
Oh, no way.
If I was still drinking regularly.
I would 100% be dead. 100%. And if by some miracle I wasn't dead, I sure wouldn't have a family. I sure wouldn't be living in this house. I sure wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't be in shape. I wouldn't be healthy. I wouldn't like what I saw in the mirror. Like, nothing I have today would exist if I hadn't made that decision.
Yeah, that's huge. I think for me as well, it's a funny story about the drinking and partying. There was a back end of a bad relationship, and I've been it was 2011. This is when I actually started slowing down on drinking, and I think the Vancouver Canucks, and I just moved to Vancouver, and the Vancouver Canucks were in the run to the NHL final. I think they lost it to the Boston Bruins. Not that I know much about hockey, but I just remember them losing the final. But they went to Game 7, and every game of the semi-final and then the final of the NHL, it was like for like 2 months it took for those games to happen. Like it took about a month and a half or whatever for all those games to be played. But every game was an event in Vancouver. Like we were going to bars, people were having parties, and I was drinking beer, and it went on for months. And then I had to go to an event. And I remember getting in an argument with my ex-girlfriend at the time because I went to put on a pair of black trousers to go to the event, and they used to fit me and they didn't fit me anymore, and she used to throw everything into the dryer, and I blamed her, going, oh, you probably put these in the dryer, they're shrunk, they don't fit me anymore. And I went and weighed myself, and I put on like 10 or 12 pounds. And
just from the playoff weight.
Yeah, playoff weight. And it absolutely just like I was like I'm sitting now about 180. I've sat at 180 most of my life. But I was up to like 190 something, and it just hit me like, oh my god, I'm fat. Yeah, I just put weight on. So that was like a trigger for me to be like, oh shit. And I just stopped drinking. At that point, I went on stopped drinking because I split up for her, and then I went on this sort of clean period for 6 months, and I just dropped 10 pounds like that because I stopped drinking regularly. It just dropped alcohol. Removing alcohol, like literally just dropped weight. Didn't have to do anything else with my diet. Dropped the weight, and then all of a sudden I was actually doing better within my jobs and stuff. So it's just such a I think it's if you want to improve your self-performance, because we are listening to the Self-Performance Strategies podcast, right. Get rid of the alcohol. So switching, long way around getting to my next question here. What is currently, do you think, in your life, what is alcohol now in your life? And it's probably not anything as bad as alcohol, but what is the thing right now that you feel like is currently slowing you down, standing in your way, or stopping with you kind of like getting to the next level when it comes to your self-performance?
Yeah, I think probably, oh man, well, like, so the easy answer, I'll give you a better one after this, but like sleep, because I have a 6-month-old.
Okay.
And like so like definitely, and my wife takes the brunt of it. Like she is up way more than me with him. But so like, yeah, I mean, I've always believed that sleep is crucially important, and like never believed it more than in its absence, which is what I've felt for the past really 3 years since our first kid was born. We haven't had like a period of great sleep really at all. So I mean, definitely that. But like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, I mean, I got my blue light blockers right here. Like that doesn't help you when at 3 a.m. when a 6-month-old is screaming. But I don't know. I think probably. So we talked about like cutting out like the dumb shit list and cutting out things that don't matter.
Yeah.
I think I still struggle, like, as much as I emphasize that, and I do a pretty good job with that. Like, I also struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I think something that holds me back is like feeling like not even like I need to say yes to everything, but like wanting to try everything that comes across my plate. So like all the time there's like, I mean, one of the secrets about online business is that you're stronger if you're teaming up with people.
Yeah.
And so like you work with somebody who you like, and you have an idea together, and you can leverage both your audiences and your skill sets and deliver something cool and new.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly having people say like, well, what if we tried this together? What if we tried that together? And my default is to always be like, yeah, like let's freaking try it. Like this sounds cool. Like I want to see what we can do. But like there's just not time to do it all. And so that's something I've noticed recently is like a buddy of mine and I have an idea that we will do at some point, but we were going to try to launch it at the end of this month. And we were on the phone yesterday, and we were talking about it, and he has a baby due in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And we were like talking about this like thing it was a cohort, a month-long thing. Yeah. And like we're not gonna, like, we can't do this. Yeah. Like it's crazy for us to try to do this right now. We both listed out all the things we had to do, and we came to the mutual conclusion like we need to pause this. This is a 2023 thing. Yeah. This is a 2022 thing. And I think that's a problem that I see cropping up that I need to work on is like I don't know if it's shiny penny or whatever, but it's like there's always cool ideas, and like you have to be really disciplined about how much you take on and where you spend your focus, because focus is really the differentiator. Focus and energy, I think those are the two most important things. If you have energy and you use that to focus in the right place, you can do anything. If you don't have energy, you can't do anything. If you have energy and you focus in the wrong place, you don't go anywhere. Yeah. And so like finding that right balance of like, where am I going to spend my energy has been a big challenge. Yeah. Yeah. No, I resonate with that a lot. The energy part, but also the trying to do too many things, or not being too like now. I'm very narrowly focused now, but I definitely feel like, earlier this year,
I was trying to like grow on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, everything. And then I just got to a point where I was like, I'm just going to burn out. So at the start of this quarter, I dropped TikTok and Instagram and other things. And you just like, and all of a sudden now I have more time for writing and actually focusing on my core business, which is the thing I should have been focusing on in the first place.
Yeah.
It is tough. I mean, I know that I mean, you're right as well. I think all my sort of best growth on Twitter always has happened, and opportunities have always come from when you're in and around other people. So it is good to make those connections, and you can win on your own, but if you want to go far, you've got to go with other people.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest takeaways I've had from online business is surrounding yourself with people who are approaching it the same way, who are smart, who are disciplined, who are doing well. And I mean, it's like the concept of the mastermind, that old concept that is true. And you need to be like, if you are all alone on an island, at best you're going to become so removed from like what's currently happening and what someone who's just starting out is struggling with, that you're going to become irrelevant. And at worst, I mean, what happens if like you need to start over, or you need to or you come to a massive crossroads, you don't have anybody to talk to, or anybody who's been through it before. It's just a huge risk. But the upside of having people around you is infinity. I mean, there's just like, you can achieve like orders of magnitude more. It's not the sum of your parts. It's like exponentially greater than that when you combine brain power and skill sets with other people. Yeah.
No, 100%. Some of my best ideas have come while listening to other people talk about what they're doing, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So if you don't have those conversations, you don't have those people in your network, if you're not part of masterminds, if you're not being coached or coaching other people, you really are missing out on a huge slice of it. I mean, I've got currently I'm probably directly still coaching about 12 people currently on the books. I've had a few people drop off, but the amount of content ideas I get from just having those coaching conversations, and then being in different groups, then listening to other people and having those conversations, it's just you're constantly surrounding yourself with ideas, and people are like solving problems for you before you even have them because they're dealing with things. So there's always somebody in your network that, oh, hey, they just launched a cohort. Why don't I jump on a call with them and ask them what they did? You get an inside track on what they were doing, and then you're obviously you're a little bit further ahead than just starting it on your own. So I think it's a huge part of success. It's a multiplayer game, I think, entrepreneurship.
I agree. Yeah, and like nobody ever really did it by themselves.
Yeah, I think there's a Arnold Schwarzenegger quote about that where he says he doesn't like people who say they're self-made because nobody's self-made.
I agree with that.
Everybody's standing on the shoulders of somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree with that myself. I had a conversation once on Twitter where someone was saying that, I did everything myself. And I said, you never read a book? You never did a course? You never had a conversation with somebody? Come on.
You never talked to another person.
Never, just came out of a dark void.
Yeah. I was born in the darkness.
Yeah.
And I created my empire in a cave.
Yeah.
And look at me now.
Yeah. Still in the cave. It's funny. So as we get towards the end here, we've been talking for an hour. It's been good fun, but we'll wrap up with a couple of sort of like quick fire or kind of different questions. But the first one I've asked a few people who come on the pod, what is a contrarian view that you have about self-performance or personal development? Where do you push back against the norm?
Okay.
So for me, I push back against optimization because I think optimization is not the first step; it's the last step. Because in my opinion, you can't polish a turd. You can't if you're not, if you have to fix the engine before you clean the car, don't clean the car. That's my sort of contrarian view because I think a lot of productivity people that I see, not just on Twitter but everywhere else, it's all about optimize your calendar, optimize your day. It's like, no, go sort out your shit first. So where do you have a contrarian view or a different view that commonly held by most people?
Okay. I think there's definitely one. You use the word optimization. That's not the same as like automation, right?
No, it can be. It can be a form of optimization, but optimization is more like drilling down to finer percents. Like you're doing your emails in 45 minutes. Let's get it to 30 minutes.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I think people automate things too soon.
Okay.
I think if you spend a ton of time getting the perfect workflow and yada yada, and you wind up solving problems that don't exist yet, and that is a big danger zone for any entrepreneur, is going out and trying to find problems before they exist. You solve problems. I mean, you can look a little bit ahead and predict problems, but don't just go looking for crap that isn't a problem yet and try to solve it, because you don't know, you're going to spend all that time automating a system or whatever. Systems is a piece of this. I think people get way too into systems way too early. Figure out how to sell and deliver your offer.
Yeah.
Figure out how to get traffic to your offer that actually sells, that actually gets people results, and then freaking automate and systemize stuff once you have more work than you can handle. But I see people I think this might be similar to what you're saying too, but I'll see guys on Twitter be like, here's my workflow in Notion, and it's 4,000 steps, and they're and then I do this. I'm like, well, how many clients do you have? How much revenue do you have? And could you have spent that time on the clients, or do you have this really cool workflow? And and so that's a big one. Man, I wish I could think about this for a little longer, because I know I can think of some more. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot that I think is kind of silly. A lot of the diet stuff that you see, people are you need to eat this diet, you need to eat that diet. One thing I've realized is the optimal diet for every person is different.
Yes.
I just, it's kind of like a faith thing for me. I just kind of believe it. I don't have science to back it up.
I'm similar. I believe in that.
I just think it's like a personal journey for everybody. Yeah. It's like faith. It's how you find faith. And diet is similar. There's no one diet that is optimal for everyone's molecular biology. Yeah. Everybody's different. So when I see someone say you got to eat this way, it's well, maybe some people do, some people don't, but you're really better served trying to find what works for you.
Yeah. No, I've done a bunch of different diets, but I think the thing that changed my direction and made me believe in that, and I think this could give you the scientific sort of data behind that, is getting your gut biome done, because everybody's gut biome is different. So people from different parts of the world react differently to different types of food. So if you feed an Irish guy potatoes, he might be able to process those potatoes better than somebody who's from a country that potatoes don't get eaten, because I've been eating potatoes, and I know it's a bit stereotypical to say Irish potatoes. I didn't want to say somebody from China with rice, because someone might call me a racist. I'll just go with the Irish guy with the potatoes. That stereotype. So if you take somebody who, it's like actually a scientific fact, that alcohol, because the Europeans drank beer and low alcohol drinks instead of water, we process alcohol now, in our DNA, or hundreds of years or thousands of years of drinking alcohol, we process alcohol at a better rate than some Asian countries where they had clean water. They didn't shit and drink. They didn't shit in their water like other Europeans did. They actually knew it was an important part of life. So, so there is actually, for me, there is a little bit of data behind that, especially around the gut biome, that diet really is an individual journey. That, somebody in the same family, same country, could react differently to different foods. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's a big one. Man, maybe we need to do an addendum after I thought about this, because I know I can think of some more contrarian views.
I did like the workflow one, because I used to come across that quite a lot in corporate, where project managers, people would come in from the big four, your Deloittes, your PwCs.
Oh man!
And they would come in and they would do these massive workflows, and then I'd sit there as a manager who then had to teach it to the staff, and I'd be 90% of that workflow is pointless. My staff will not understand it. It needs to be 4 steps, not 15 or 40. They know how the system works. They don't need to know one of the steps is open second tab, go to Claim Center. Click. It's it's the software the company used to use, but the Claim Center. But it just used to I can't teach this And they're like, well, that's how you, and it just, they're not understanding the disconnect. And I think a lot of people do the same with like their workflows for Notion, or they do the workflows for how they're actually going to do their daily or weekly work. I've seen people's calendars, like people who have all these very, very nicely colored calendars that on all different these colors and stuff. And I'm like, how much time do you spend on your calendar? I have a pen and a bit of paper, and it takes me 5 minutes each day to work out what I'm doing. I don't need a calendar to, so it's, I definitely resonate with that, because I think a lot of people overcook and focus on the low dollar stuff that doesn't actually impact their bottom line.
Yeah. To me, it's like the guiding principle and everything. I should have said this at the beginning when you asked the question, but like, to me, it's simplicity.
Yeah.
Is it simple?
Is
it simple? If it's simple, it's good. If it's complicated, it's bad. And it's really pretty close to binary. Like, that's pretty much right. Like, if it's complicated, I can't deal with it. And one of the things I do is like as a success principle that I have is literally do the same thing every single day.
Yep. Same time as well.
So that's another thing I see, like people say like, no, like routine is like an early march to an early grave or whatever. Like, not for me. I need to be doing the same thing. I wear the same clothes. I eat the same food. I go to the gym at the same time. I play with my kids at the same time. I do the same thing every single day. I have the same time blocked off to work every single day. My calendar just has two things on it. It's gym and work. Yeah. And that's it.
Pretty much the same.
And it's every day. Every day forever is those two things. And so like that's one thing I think people will just overcomplicate a freaking ham sandwich if you let them. Yeah. And really, like, simple is beautiful. The world should be beautiful. The world should be simple. And the more complicated you make stuff, the harder you're making it on yourself.
Love it. Couldn't agree with you more. That's you really sort of like describing what the correct use of the 80-20 principle is. It's just make things easy for you. Like I don't even have a calendar, because I know I write out the things I'm going to do each day. I do kind of have a little bit of a tracker and a journal, but I know that the first thing I do for an hour is some type of deep work, and then I go on and do my Twitter stuff because of the timing. The one disadvantage of being on the West Coast is I feel like I'm 3 hours behind everybody constantly. Right. It kind of sucks. But like I know every day is the same. I do a little bit of deep work, I do a bit of Twitter stuff, grab a tea or a second coffee, do a little bit more deep work, take the dog for a walk, come in, maybe jump on a couple of calls, go for lunch, do some creative work. Day's over, go for a walk, work out, and then my days are just the same thing, just repeated over and over. Even a Saturday and Sunday. Is it boring? No, I kind of enjoy it because it helps me not have to go to a 9 to 5.
Right? Yeah, that's boring.
Yeah.
And there's nothing boring. Like, people say the same thing about drinking. Not to go back to this, but like, aren't you bored? Like, no, I'm not bored. I like, every day is a freaking exciting as shit.
Yeah.
Like, building a business and helping people and making money, like, this is freaking awesome. And the only reason I can do that is because I do the same crap every single day forever, for as long as it takes.
Yeah. No, I love that. Really, really good. Really, really good. So wrapping up, one of the last questions I always like to ask is, if you could get everybody in the world to wear a t-shirt, a printed t-shirt for one day, a graphic tee for one day, what would that t-shirt say?
This is my life philosophy in 3 words.
Yeah.
Well, it's four words, maybe. Get better every day.
Get better every day.
Get better every day. That would have the biggest impact, I think. If everybody internalized that all you have to do is get a little bit better every day. Oh, I don't know what percentage of our problems would disappear, but it would be big.
Yeah, I love that. Get better every day. I think that's a great just philosophy for life. Just every day, if you're doing something that's going to get better, and I think it taps into this idea of verbalizing your goals in a way that you're succeeding to your dream daily.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna. What's your shirt say?
Well, do less dumb shit.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to get those printed soon. Someone told me I should print them. It was Tyler on Twitter said I need to sell those t-shirts.
He's got a good instinct.
Yeah. I think he already sells t-shirts for his motto. I can't remember what his motto is, like spread kindness or something, or be more kind. I can't remember what his t-shirt says, but yeah. But yeah, that's the way. Get better every day. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a fun conversation. We've been talking for an hour and a bit here. But to wrap up, any questions from me? Anything that I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about the. No, I was gonna make like a political joke, but no, I don't want to get into that. No, I mean, this has been awesome. This has been so much fun. It felt like way less than an hour. I feel like I probably talked too much, but that's par for the course.
It's what you meant to do in a podcast.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Nobody wants to sit around and listen to two dudes just be quiet.
Be quiet. Yeah.
The silence hour.
Yeah, the meditation podcast is two dudes being quiet, breathing deeply.
With like a 2600 hertz orange noise or whatever in the background.
Yeah, releasing the your chakras.
Yeah. There's a certain tone that's supposed to raise testosterone or something. I don't know. But no, I mean, this has been fun. This has been great. Thank you for having me, Stephen. I've enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, man, it's more than welcome to come back on anytime. It's been good talking to you, and it's been great catching up. But before we go, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, what your offers are, and I'll put all that information in the show notes. So over to you. Yeah,
the best way to get in touch with me is not email. Don't email me. Don't you dare email me. It's at Save Your Sons on Twitter. Send me a DM. I see most of those. Pretty much anyone I get. I get a lot, but I still see most of them. Save.your.sons on Instagram. And if you're a dad or a man or anybody, I mean, I'm used to dealing. I like dealing with dads because I think part of what is so important. I like helping dads build businesses.
Yeah.
And the family life is such an important part of that. Getting that right, having the right conversations with your wife, setting the right boundaries, setting the right expectations with your wife and your kids. It goes into the part of the coaching that I do. Mm-hmm. But if that's you and you hate the 9 to 5 and you've been looking for a way out and you've been lurking Twitter or Instagram and you see people that are building things for themselves, that's what I did. I did it the hard way. I help you do it the easier way. There's no easy way, but I teach you what I learned to get there. And talk to me. We can build you that business, build you that side income, so that at some point down the road you'll have a nice audience, which will provide your traffic, and then you'll have an offer to sell, which will help give you money for your family. So you don't have to go to you don't have to answer emails all day anymore.
Yeah, you can hire someone to do that. Brilliant. Yeah, if you're interested, in the show notes, I'll have all Save Your Sons information, Harrison's information. It's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Really appreciate for coming on. I'm sure I'll have you on in the future. If you have anything big coming down the pipeline, a launch or something, I might have you back on to have a conversation. Maybe we'll talk more business scaling and business strategy rather than just self-performance stuff. But yeah, thank you very much, my man.
Hey, Steve, I appreciate it, dude. We will talk soon, man.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right, bud. Bye.
That was the 30th episode of the SPS podcast. Thanks very much for joining Harrison and I for that deep dive. Obviously, everything that you need to know about Harrison, aka Save Your Sons, is in the show notes, and everything that you need to know about myself is also in the show notes. But if you want to hit me up on Twitter, at Steve Timoney, that's at SteveEtimoney, or slide on over to my website, and that's stephentimoney.com, StevenTimoney.com. And let me know what you think of the podcast. Let me know if there's anybody in the Twitter, LinkedIn, or online space that you would like to hear me interview. I would be very interested in reaching out to somebody who you think would be a good person to have on the pod. Let me know. Anyway, I look forward to speaking to you in the next episode. Make it a good one.